Watch and burn.
Hey everyone, so tonight I want to discuss the 1995 film. This is Johnny Mnemonic. This was directed by Robert Longo in his directorial debut. This was his directorial debut, sorry. And what it's about is Keanu Reeves' character, Johnny. He is a courier where he carries data via an implant in his brain that allows him to jack in and jack out of various hard drive systems, whatever else he needs to, in order to upload the data to his storage compartment in his brain. And then he, takes the data to wherever else and he plugs in again and the data is pulled off. The catch here is, I can't remember the exact gigage, of course, but I think the data was 300 and some odd gigs. And he has yet to receive the upgrade necessary in order to safely store and carry 300 plus gigs. He lies, of course, at the start of the film and says, oh yeah, I got the upgrade, I can handle this. Because he figures that it's just another data job, it's just another currying job where he's got to go from A to B. And he knows that as long as he gets the data overload out of his storage system in his brain within 24 hours, he'll be fine. But what he doesn't realize is that this data is incredibly sensitive and worth a lot of money, and it's a cure to the big disease that is plaguing humanity at this point, or in this version of reality. There's so many things I love about this movie. I love this movie. I've loved this movie since I was a kid, and I think it's because I really like the whole cyberpunk thing. I always have. Back in the 90s, I did my best to look as cyberpunk as possible. I was always reading something by William Gibson. I remember the first book I read by William Gibson, oddly enough, was Mona Lisa Overdrive. I had no idea that it was part of a trilogy, and that Neuromancer, which was readily available to me at the same time, was actually the first book in the trilogy, and I probably should have picked that up initially and read that in the first place. But yeah, so the first book I read was Mona Lisa Overdrive. I've read Neuromancer, Iduru. If I'm not mistaken, too, William Gibson is the guy who is credited with coining the term cyberspace. So these cyberpunk writers, as flawed as their work may have been, because on one hand, I found William Gibson's stuff to be really strong and adds these really massive thematic elements to them that helped propel the story forward. But the dialogue between the characters with not just William Gibson, but a lot of cyberpunk authors, the dialogue was so weak. The storytelling, the background, it was like Tarantino. And then the dialogue was like fucking Steven Seagal, and it's like, oh, fuck. There's such a disconnect there with Gibson's work. So when this was being transferred over, when this was being made into a movie, I was excited because at this point I had read the story by William Gibson. I think, memory serves, the story came out back in the early 80s. I think it came out back in 80 or 81. And I read it just a little while before this movie was either going into production or it was coming out in theaters. I can't remember which. And I was like, yeah, but the dialogue is so iffy, And I was like, are they going to be able to tighten that up for the movie? And whereas the dialogue in this movie, it's not Tarantino again. It's still a hell of a lot better than the story was. And so I loved that. I loved how the characters seem to play off of each other. I love how Henry Rollins is in this, Ice-T is in this, Dolph Lundgren's in this. I just love that Rollins and Ice-T are in this so much. And I love how they both embrace their roles so completely and they just give everything they have. And that's what makes their characters so believable. Dolph Lundgren plays this sort of mercenary monk who's just killing people to make more money so he can further alter his body and become more machine over man. And he's a serious force to be reckoned with. He's essentially the movie's Terminator, and they have to deal with him endlessly, and it gets so bad that at the very end of the film, when his burnt corpse is there and it's essentially just a skeleton, you see it start to rise again, and you're like, Jesus Christ, does this fucking guy ever die? And then it's revealed, of course, that his body's just being hoisted up and it's going to be dumped in the water. And it's believable for that moment that his corpse or his skeleton would rise to cause more trouble because Dolph Lundgren was such a overbearing and powerful negative force, the perfect antagonist for this film. I also really liked how slick this movie looked. There's two ways I like cyberpunk movies. I either like them to look slick and clean like this movie, or I want them to look rusted, sandy, and dirty like Hardware with Dylan McDermott. I'm pretty sure it's Dylan McDermott's in Hardware. Hang on for a second. Yep, Dylan McDermott was in Hardware. I like how that movie portrayed everything. It was more, of course, way more in a post-apocalyptic sense. The world had ended in Hardware, and the world was still thriving, I suppose, in the world of Johnny Mnemonic. But I want my cyberpunk to be one of two. I don't like it when there's a bit of both. Like, I don't like it when half the world's rich and half the world's rusted and shitty looking. I either want it all or none. So Johnny Mnemonic does a really good job of keeping things really slick looking. And there are some, I guess, more like high-tech, low life, which is, of course, the tagline for every kind of cyberpunk that has ever been produced. Now, whether that's print media, video games, movies, radio, it doesn't matter. The overall tagline is high-tech, low life, because society has completely bottomed out, and yet technology has just continued to climb to this like apex level where anybody can sort of alter their body in any way they want to, no matter what type of financial dire straits they may find themselves in. And they do touch on that in this, but for the most part, this movie is slick looking, and that's what I was looking for with this movie. I wanted it to look slick, and I wanted it to stay slick. I don't know, there's not a lot more I can really say. This movie's a lot of fun. Keanu Reeves is awesome, man. Fucking Ice-T's in it. Henry Rollins is in it. Dolph Lundgren plays a kick-ass bad guy. If you haven't seen Johnny Mnemonic, check Johnny Mnemonic out. Even if you don't like it the first time through, make yourself watch it again, because you'll probably like it the second time through. I've heard that from a few people over the course of time. They were like, I couldn't stand this movie, and then I saw it on TV a few years later, and I loved it. So don't give up on it if you don't like it in the first place. All right, look, I'm going to go. So thank you so much for hanging out with me for, almost 7.5 minutes while I discussed Johnny Mnemonic from 1995. If you like this review or discussion or whatever this was, don't forget to do something nice for somebody. I am going to go. Have a good night. I just wanted to say thank you for making it through the entire video. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to remind everyone one more time, even though I've probably already done this in the video that you just watched, to please click the like button as well as the subscribe button, because it helps this channel grow. And thank you for hitting like and subscribe, and we will see you guys really soon.